a wonderful thing to see a packed room, and we're going to have a great morning. We're going to start out with the honor guard from the Navy Junior ROTC, Palm Beach Gardens High School, presenting the colors. If you could all rise and please remain standing for the next 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you.
And salute.
Peace. Color guard, hope. Breeze, head, colors.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carry. Colors. Ready. Cut. Outward. Pace. Forward. March.
Standing for the national anthem. Singing the national anthem will be Emmeline Smith. Emmeline is a 7th grader at Benjamin's.
Stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please remain standing. I'd like to introduce Pilar Galago. Pilar, where? Pilar? Thank you. We stepped a little bit out of order. Pilar is one of the staff here at the DoubleTree. She helps us every Tuesday morning. She's a wonderful person. She was going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I just want to recognize Pilar and the staff this morning for helping us out. Deacon Al Wesley. Deacon Al will lead us in an invocation.
Back in 1945, in the early part of 1945, there was a crack division sent to an island that was being held by the Japanese, and they had there the POWs from Corregidor and Bataan. It was a brutal place. It was headed by a Japanese captain who was a sadistic son of a gun. The Army formed this brigade to go in and surreptitiously attack it and save the POWs that were there. And they did this. They killed what they could, captured what they could, and saved God only knows how many men. And the camp itself made a lot of the soldiers sick. As they were leaving, they were carried out, most of the guys that couldn't walk. There was one man in particular, as they neared the gate, he said, "When we get to the gate, please lower the stretcher so I can stand." And they said, "You're too weak to stand, and we're going to take you out because we're going to evacuate you to the main." He begged them, and he started to cry. Finally, they lowered the stretcher down, and they helped him off the stretcher. He stood, and the man on either side of him held him, and he said, "Please don't hold me, I'm going to stand here alone for a minute." And they took their arms away. He stood and he stretched to his full height, which wasn't much. He turned, he looked up, and he saluted the American flag and dropped dead. Let us pray. Lord, hold these loved ones in your loving hands. Protect them as they protect us. Bless them and their families for the selfless acts they perform for us in our time of need. Give them courage and hope and strength. May they ever experience your firm support, gentle love, and compassionate healing. We ask this in the name of Jesus, our Lord. Amen.
Everyone, please be seated. Isn't it wonderful to see the youth participation today in our program? What a great day they're doing. Such an outstanding job. We not only had the junior ROTC participate, but we had a group called the Interact Club, Palm Beach Gardens High School. Interact Club is a club that our Rotary Club works with very, very closely in trying to give them leadership and service skills, and we appreciate their help and friendship. Today we are here to honor the men and women who serve our country in military roles. Over the years, our military personnel have served with honor, bravery, and distinction. Their sacrifices have kept America great and have ensured freedom for us and other nations. Our program will last about 60 minutes and will be heartwarming for those who served and their family members as well. I would like to make a few introductions. I'm going to start with the members of our dais. Starting on your right is Matt Hernandez. Next is Lou Romano. Next is Kate Reza. Next is Ken Lee. Next to me is Pat Rooney Jr. And Matt Deacon Al. We have Bill Doherty and Chad Jenkins. I would also like to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors include the Palm Beach Kennel Club. And with the Palm Beach Kennel Club is Pat Rooney Sr. Without the help of the Kennel Club this morning, we probably could not have pulled off the program. So I do want to give a special recognition to the Kennel Club. I also want to recognize the Rooney family. We may be hearing quite a bit from the Rooney family at this point. Bill Vega contributed to our cause, the Ferber Company, and Shields Ferber, Mark Ciarfella, Greg Smith set up a memorial table up here at front. If you have not had a chance to take a look at it, take a look at it on your way out. You will see some amazing contributions that people in this room have given to our country. Bill Dunn and Sons is a sponsor, Forgotten Soldiers Outreach. Linnell's here. Linnell was a great help to our committee, and we're grateful for your help, Linnell. Eileen Foss has contributed. The Singer Island Rotary Club has contributed. Champion Electrical Contracting through Richard Taylor. Frankel Real Estate. Duffy's and John Smith are big help to our Rotary Club. Nationwide Home Loans to Jeffrey Chandler, and the Laws of Nugent, Dabrowski, and Bruce. These people stepped up to the plate and helped us out continuously, and we're very grateful for their help. I also want to thank our Rotarians, and specifically Rotarians of our committee. They started back in August, right out of the gate to put together this breakfast. It's been an amazing thing to see and have come together, and they did a great job. We have past presidents of the Rotary Club I'm not going to introduce. We have our district governor, Eric Gordon, here today, and other members of the Rotary district that we are in. And it's just standing up here and seeing smiling faces and seeing people that have contributed so much to our country and our community is just a wonderful thing. So I want to thank all of those. I also want to introduce Pat Mooney Jr. In Rotary, we have a saying, service above self. And Pat exemplifies that in a way that you're going to find out right now. I'm going to read an introduction, which I normally wouldn't do, but Pat's contribution to the community is so outstanding, and I know a lot of you know him, but I feel compelled to read it. Pat Mooney Jr. In his more than 2 decades here, Pat Mooney has become a successful businessman and a respected community leader in Palm Beach County. He is currently the president of the Palm Beach County Club. Pat was a representative in the Florida House, District 85, from 2010 to 2016, in which he served Palm Beach Gardens, North Palm Beach, Juno Beach, the Acreage, and part of West Palm Beach. He has also served as a governing board member for South Florida Water Management District from 2007 to 2010. Mr. Rooney also serves as a director for the Autism Project of Palm Beach County and is a founding member for Potentia Academy in Green Acres. Pat also serves as a director and co-chair for the not-for-profit Rooney's Golf Foundation Incorporated, which raises money for local charities through various events held each year. He is a board member of the Children's Healthcare Charity, which is aligned with Honda Classic, a group that we are aligning ourselves with, and a former board member of Bella's Angels. He has served as a vice president for Renaissance Learning Academy, former director and board president of Home Safe of Palm Beach County, director and board president of FAU's Honors College, trustee of the Chamber of Commerce of Palm Beach and Northern Palm Beach Chamber of Commerce. Pat is also a member of the Forum Club of the Palm Beaches and the Economic Council of Palm Beach County. That's a mouthful. That's service above self. That's just amazing, an amazing deal. Mr. Rooney graduated from Clemson University with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science in 1986, went on to Villanova University School of Law for his Juris Doctor in 1989, and then earned his MBA from Lehigh University in 1992. Pat and his wife Patty have 4 children, Mary, Franny, Patrick III, and Anthony, and live in West Palm Beach. They are active members of St. Ignatius Loyola Cathedral in Palm Beach Gardens. For the rest of the morning, I'd like to introduce Pat and have him lead you to the rest of the program.
Thank you, Kelly. I told him beforehand, I said, you don't need to read all that stuff. It makes me sound much more important than I really am. But I appreciate that. Appreciate being here. Initially, Don Smith, when he asked to get a speaker, a master of ceremonies for this, I referred him to a couple other folks I know, and they couldn't do it. And he's just like, who are we going to get? I'd say, Don, I'll do it. Don't worry, I'll figure something out. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and
lead the program here in front of so many distinguished people. You know, I mentioned the Kennel Club and the fact that, you know, we were able to sponsor a good deal of this, but, you know, just to let you know a little behind the scenes, my sister Molly is married to one of Don's sons, so we really didn't have a choice. You know, happy to do it, but didn't really have a choice in that. I did want to recognize one person here who served with me up in the Florida legislature for the past 4 years. He's currently a county commissioner here, and you know, Dave and I were on opposite sides of the aisle. I was a Republican, Dave was a Democrat, but I can't tell you anybody that I appreciated more, especially on issues like dealing with law enforcement or human trafficking or things like that. Dave just did a super job up in Tallahassee, and although we talked a little bit before the breakfast about how glad we are not to have to be up there, again, you know, in his capacity as a county commissioner, you're not going to find a better person. So Dave, I want to just give you a shout out. Now I got the privilege really of reading a letter from my brother Tom, who's been up in the U.S. House since 2008, I think is the first year he got elected up there, and he's beginning, I believe, his 10th term. And he unfortunately couldn't be here. Tom served in the U.S. Army and the JAG Corps there, and he wanted me to read a letter to you. So forgive me as I read this, but thank you for your invitation to the Armed Forces Appreciation Breakfast. I regret that I am unable to attend this special event in person, but would like to express my gratitude to the Rotary Club for hosting such an important tribute to those who have served our country. To the veterans in attendance today, thank you for your service, and thank you for those of you that are here to show your support for these brave men and women. All of my work and the work of my colleagues would be futile if not for the devotion of members of our local community and remembering those whose service has made our way of life possible. Every year, the Army-Navy game ignites an exciting surge of appreciation for our country's veterans as the nation turns its attention to the celebration of service and athletics. During this event, we are reminded that appreciation for our armed forces is not an annual event, but rather a patriotic duty that stretches from the end of the fourth quarter to next year's kickoff. By taking part in today's event, you are commemorating those who risked their lives to ensure our country remains safe, prosperous, and free. It's my pleasure to support this breakfast and all that it represents. Thank you for this opportunity. Enjoy the game this weekend. And he says, go Army at the end. I do want to make a quick connection. My brother Tom is named after my great uncle Tom, who's, you know, my grandfather gets a lot of the publicity in our family for starting the Pittsburgh Steelers, and well deserved that he should. But his youngest brother was named Thomas, and he was killed in World War II on the island of Guam at age 18, I believe. So, you know, we're very fortunate in our family to have been given a lot, and I always go to that old biblical saying, to those that are given a lot is expected, and I'm just very appreciative as I look at my family's history, a lot of the stuff that they've been able to do, even though we've been very lucky in life and have been given a lot of opportunities that a lot of folks don't have, but there is a sense of service that comes from my grandfather and my dad to us and our family, and I'm very appreciative that you know, my brother Tom and my other brother Brian, who was in the Marine Corps, and served 2 tours of duty over in Iraq and Afghanistan, were able to take that feeling of sacrifice and go with it. And I'm just very appreciative that my dad's here and that my brother Tom is able to continue that service in the U.S. House. All right, with that said, we'll get the program underway here. I know some of you might have to actually go to work after this. The first person I'm going to introduce is Kate Ariza. Kate Ariza is a Jupiter, Florida native and 3rd-generation Floridian, an all-state swimmer in high school. She was recruited to the United States Naval Academy for swimming. Upon earning her Bachelor of Science degree, she received her commission as an ensign and was stationed aboard the USS Carr in Norfolk. She was the first female to be stationed on that ship, and I'm sure she has some stories about that. After a successful tour, she went to Japan and was stationed aboard the USS Tortuga and the USS Fort McHenry. As a lieutenant, she went on to teach naval leadership in Coronado, California, before receiving her honorable discharge. After that, she received her master's degree from Johns Hopkins. Kate Ariza is currently the Chief Operating Officer at the South Florida Science Center and Aquarium in West Palm Beach. And Kate resides in Palm Beach Gardens with her husband, a former naval officer, and 2 children, ages 3 and 5 years old. Please welcome Kate Ariza.
I'm kind of loud, so I will try my best not to bust your eardrums out. Thank you, Pat, for that warm introduction, and thank you to everyone who's here this morning, and Kelly, Roger, Bill, Don, and everyone who puts this breakfast on, really. I've attended for the past several years, and now I'm very honored to be able to speak to you this morning. I am Kate Ariza. I'm a U.S. Naval Academy graduate, former naval officer, and now I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the South Florida Science Center and Aquarium. I'm very lucky, I feel very fortunate that in the beginning of my career I was able to serve my country, and now I feel like I am fortunate enough to serve my community in my capacity at the Science Center. So I get asked a lot, what did you do while you were in the Navy? People don't really understand what you do. And the short answer is I was a SWO, a Surface Warfare Officer. I was the person, when you see these 2,000-ton warships, I was driving the ship around, going to all of the operations, wherever the Navy needed humanitarian ops, training other navies. I was there driving those ships. As you heard, I was on the USS Carr, USS Fort McHenry, and USS Tortuga. Absolutely fantastic time. Really, surface warfare officers, we're kind of the unsung heroes. No one really knows what you're doing up there on the bridge of the ship. There's a lot going on up there. It's really, really fun. I can't say enough about my time in the military, truly. Being on a ship was fantastic. I even enjoyed being deployed for 10 months out of the year when I was in Japan. There's no other experience like it. And I was fortunate enough to finish out my career as a leadership instructor in Coronado, California. By that time, I met my husband, and who's also a naval officer, and we knew we wanted to be back here. I'm from the area, and I've been all around the world, and I can tell you that there is no other place like South Florida. This is where I wanted to raise my family. This is where I wanted to be. So South Florida it was when we got out of the military. I was 30 years old when I got out. I've been to 43 countries, and I have led thousands of sailors and Marines. I dare you to find a 30-year-old with a resume like that. Truly, it's part of the reason why I'm able to lead such a successful organization today. I mean, the things that you learn in the military, the life experiences that you have, this is what the Navy or the Army, Air Force, whatever you're in, this is what it gives you, life experiences that no really civilian can kind of understand. The camaraderie, really the brotherhood, the sisterhood, when you're on deployment, when you're down in that foxhole, it's like nothing else. And I really wouldn't trade that response, I wouldn't trade that for anything. Probably the second question I get asked is, well, do you want your kids to be in the military? I have a daughter, and I said, do you want your daughter to be in the military? I say, well, why wouldn't I want my daughter to be in the military? I mean, really, the experiences that I've had, the things that I've done, it's pretty incredible, and absolutely I want my children to experience that. The lessons that you learn leading these sailors and Marines, dealing with different temperaments, learning how to work with different people, that goes across the board. I'm in the nonprofit sector now, but the things that I learned from leading people in the military play a huge role in what I do today. So absolutely, I want my children, especially to go to Naval Academy. That would be fantastic. And I'm honored now that I'm actually able to hire veterans because I know that the value they bring to organizations. So I'm very lucky to be in a position where I can do that. So welcome veterans, welcome active duty. Thank you to everyone who's here this morning, and thank you for the people that support us. Right? I know that being back home is sometimes maybe almost more difficult than being deployed. I mean, truly, I can tell you, my mother was a nervous wreck every time I went out on deployment, and so I understand that it is difficult for the people that are back home. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Lastly, I want to thank everyone here who's in this room that loves this country as much as I do. Truly, it is the most fantastic place in the world, and I feel lucky that we live in a country like this. As JFK said during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. So thank you for being here, and as always, go Navy!
Bill Doherty will play recordings of the hymns of each branch of our armed forces. Bill was in the Marine Corps from 1959 to 1963 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. He presently serves as commander of American Legion Post 371 and VFW. Please welcome Bill Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Mooney. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see you. First, it is truly my honor to speak to you today because I know most of you in this room personally, or I know about you. And I know the sacrifices and the service that you have performed. So we're here to thank you for this. And we have in this room individuals, corporations, we've got members of the armed forces serving now, in the reserve, veterans from, thank you, all of the conflicts, starting from World War II to Korea, Cuban crisis, Vietnam, Grenada, you name it, it's there. We've got them in this room, and we're lucky to have such individuals. When I'm in the audience at one of these events, it is automatic for me when the Marine Corps hymn, Anchors Away, or Semper Paratus is played, I automatically stand. But today, as commander of the American Legion, serving all of my comrades, I will have the distinct pleasure of standing for every song that's being played, from the Air Force, the Army, and the Merchant Marine. Would you please, Maestro, stop the music, starting with the United States Army. Please stand if you are in the Army. Any jarheads in the room?
guys know the words?
With all active duty, reserve, and veterans from every branch of the service collectively now stand. The greatest military in the world. You're looking at it right now. Thank you. You know, as I stated earlier, I know who you are, and I know what you've done and the sacrifices that you've gone through. And I'd like to close with this because of who you are. There's two kind of birds in the world, ordinary and extraordinary. One is a pigeon, and the other one is an eagle. Eagles are extraordinary. They're rare. They're high flyers. They don't coast through life and do ordinary things. They soar to great heights. They are majestic. Let me tell you, it's an honor for me to be in your presence, the Eagles of America. God bless you, and God bless you.
Appreciate that. Bill said when he heard the one song, he was ready to get on the ship. I want to talk a little bit about the group that's actually putting this on today, the Rotary Club of the Northern Palm Beaches. It's the host of today's gathering, and we appreciate all the time and effort they have put into this event. Rotarian Dwight Drum, a U.S. Army veteran, will show us a video about what Rotary does for our communities. Please welcome Dwight Drum.
Welcome to Rotary. We are here to recognize the veterans this morning, but we want to leave you with some information about Rotary, the good things that we do locally, nationally, and internationally. So we have a short video to show you. And if you're pleased that video, you're welcome to stand with us as we recite Rotary's gift that's on the back of your program. So if we can start the video.
Let's start with why it was founded. In 1905, a Chicago attorney named Paul P. Harris formed one of the world's first service organizations, the Rotary Club of Chicago. It was a place where professionals with diverse backgrounds could exchange ideas, form meaningful friendships, and serve their community. The name Rotary came from the group's early practice of rotating the meeting location among the offices of each member. And for over a century, the community has expanded all over the globe, and the exchange of ideas, friendships, and service has grown right along with it. Rotary has always been a magnet for leadership, not only in its members, but also in those who regularly present at Rotary meetings. Few places allow you to rub elbows with so many leaders, and at the same time, lend a hand to so many in need. You know, our fight to end polio is this close to succeeding. With over 1.2 million members in over 34,000 clubs worldwide, the networking and service opportunities are almost endless. And in every one of those clubs, the members are dedicated to service above self and maintaining the 6 areas of focus: promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water, saving mothers and children, supporting education, and growing local economies. Those focus areas and everything we do can always be put through our 4-way test. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Are you a busy business or community leader whose heart is set to serve above self? Then we were made for each other. The meetings have stopped rotating, but our passion to network, share, and serve has not. Why don't you look us up?
If you will, we invite you to stand as you recite the Rotary before we finish. Before we did, for the things we say, think, or do. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. Number 5. Good one.
All right, now we're starting to get into the meat of things. This Saturday, the Classic Army-Navy football game will be played at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. To set the stage, Rotarian Roger Pelzer will show us a 3-minute video of this game's significance. If you don't.
I'd like to welcome you to the United States Military Academy at West Point.
You have 90 seconds to say your goodbyes.
I was a pretty young and irresponsible person until I stepped in front of that unit that I was supposed to lead, and the commander looked me right in the eye and told me that I was in charge. Now believe me, I almost took a knee, and I felt a little faint, but it did not take me long to learn what that really meant. Their lives were my responsibility, and it won't take you long either.
Step up to my line, not on my line, not over my line.
Notice in the high school his command sends you up to start.
Notice, his arm is parallel to the deck.
Sir!
Do you know how much you are going to be tested in the coming weeks?
You have to try, and you have to try with all your heart. One of the things that has always been part of this family is you always make your mom and dad proud. He is doing something that benefits this country. So I can't feel nothing but pride.
And exactly a month from today, we're going to lay it on the line for each other. 1 month from today.
Sometimes you may look up at that scoreboard, and that scoreboard will say, oh no, this is impossible. This is not. All you got to do is you go, that scoreboard's a lie. You get yourself in the moment. You focus on the next snap.
This school is based on a principle of leadership and integrity, all things that somebody has to have to lead men into battle.
Are we moving?
In this great institution, you learn the values of honor, courage, commitment,
how every American should live their life.
Every mud pile, every log, everything. It's worth it. I've spent more months playing football. My ultimate goal is to be a Marine, and I have to get rid of the ball. Go! You just have to keep going and not stop moving. That's how we do it on the football field, and that's how the Marine Corps does it.
We have a chance to bond like no other team in America.
You really don't know any other way. You fight with your brother, you play with your brother, it's everything.
The Army-Navy game is a game that everybody's going to get up for. It's the most American game played.
We're rivals at every level.
When we graduate, we'll be on the same team, but when we're on that field, we do not like each other.
Navy is a special team. Army is a special team. They're there for a special reason. It's not just about the football.
All right, that should start to get you fired up. All right, this next segment will be fun, and I only know that because my script says so. We're going to hear a lighthearted competitive banner about the football game from a representative of the Navy and a representative of the Army. Representing the Navy is Lou Romano, a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy class of 1967. He entered the academy from Miami Senior High, where he earned multiple letters in football and track. In his senior year, Miami High was named national champion. Lou played for the Navy during the Roger Staubach era. Following graduation from the academy, Lou earned his pilot wings and became a carrier pilot flying missions during the Vietnam conflict. He served 6 years on active duty. And please welcome Lou Romano.
And I'd also like to thank President Davis and the rest of you guys for having me here. It's really an honor.
Hey Lou, knock them together. Can't hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now? He said it's supposed to be fun. I'll speak up. Well, I really want to be here for a couple of reasons, and hopefully it'll be a little bit of fun, but to introduce you a little bit about the Naval Academy, a personal experience that I was asked to deliver, and what's going on with the Navy team today. The Naval Academy was founded in 1845, and the first Army-Navy football game was in 1890. Now, I see y'all looking at my gray hair. I wasn't at that game. Navy won 24-zip, and that's a tradition that's continued on over the years. There's been many classic games, too many to mention, and this was asked to talk about the one that meant the most to me. From a personal point of view, coming out of Miami High in 1960, when Joe Bellino and the Navy team came to town for the Orange Bowl. I really hadn't heard much about Navy football, I didn't know much about it, but I remember very clearly the Orange Bowl parade on New Year's Eve when the Navy float came across the street, and as it was coming down, it was a great big float, and they had a statue of Joe Bellino, number 27, with his full football gear on, and right next to him was a Polaris, a mock-up of a Polaris missile, a 40-foot Polaris missile. And the banner read, "Navy's might, men and missile." And it just really had a tremendous impact on me. And I had no idea that a few years later I'd wind up at the Naval Academy, and I'd have the opportunity to catch passes that were thrown by Roger Staubach in practice. Now, I wasn't on the team with him. Back in those days, in 1963, they didn't let plebes or freshmen play on the varsity. And that's a game I want to tell you a little bit about because it was so significant in my mind. Navy had a championship team, and we were going to the Army game. There were 98,000 people at the stadium in Philadelphia that year, and the team was very strong. Both teams were very strong. It was a very tough and close game. Navy had to come up with a solution for their running game, and Navy won 17-12. And that was in 1960, I'm sorry, that's the game that they won in the Orange Bowl. And then that wound up going, when I wound up going to the Naval Academy, and the game that I want to talk about is in 1963, because it was a year that was very mixed emotions for all of us. President Kennedy was a fan of the Naval Academy. He came to the Naval Academy. He was, as you all probably know, a Navy veteran and PT boat driver in World War II. That summer he came to the Academy and spoke, and he also mentioned that he was going to be at the Army-Navy game that year. And of course, you all know he was assassinated. It was a shock, and our game was postponed. And but due to that assassination, once again Navy won, and we saw back and Hardin led the team to 21-15 victory as the clock ran out with Army on the 1 yard line ready to score, and they couldn't close the deal. So the Navy went on to play Texas in the Cotton Bowl and lost to the Texas team. But there's a difference between the Texas players at the University of Texas and the Naval Academy, because I asked what is it that the Texas players, what do they get on their SAT scores? And the answer came back and said it's mostly drool. That's all ancient history. What's going on now? Well, over the last 12 years, the MID's record has been outstanding. 96 wins against 54 losses, and that's puts them in the top 25 in the country during that time period. More importantly, the wins that we've made against other service academies. Air Force, we are 10-4 in the last 14 years, and the last 14 years against Army, I think we won them all. Well, I was, as Army and Navy lined up to get against each other last year, I was unable to get up to the game, although I have plans to go this year. But we have a tradition here in the Palm Beach area where we meet at Duffy's, and they have a big room with lots of TVs all around the room, and the Army guys, the alumni sit at one end, and the Navy guys sit at the other end. And there's a lot of banter back and forth during the game. But last year, it was amazing because as I was there with my wife and we're making introductions, and one of the Army guys comes in, he's got a little dog with him. And I said, hey, Phil, what's with the dog? He said, this is a trained dog. I always have him home every year for the Army-Navy game, and he's really a smart dog. And this year I decided to bring him to this event so you guys can see how smart he is. And I said, well, what does he do? He says, every time Army gets a touchdown, the dog barks 6 times. And every time Army gets a first down, the dog barks once. And I said, well, what will he do if Army beats Navy? And he said, gee, I don't know, I've only had him 13 years. But I did have one serious comment I would like to make. You know, after the game, the respect and the admiration that the cadets and midshipmen have for each other comes out. And we know we're going off to fight wars, not going in the NFL. And so I just hope that the way that the Army and Navy people come together after the contest can bring some light to the rest of America. As we go through, we've had a tough contest in the election, and there's a lot of division, and I hope now people recognize that the contest is over, and let's all come together and go the same direction as one country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate those sentiments. Representing the Army is Matt Hernandez. Matt was born and raised in South Florida, graduated from Wellington High School in 2004. He is a member of the West Point class where he played defensive end and on the Army football team. After graduation, Matt was an assistant defensive line coach at West Point. After that, Matt completed airborne and ranger schools at Fort Benning. He served as an airborne rifle platoon leader in Afghanistan with the 25th 508 Parachute Infantry Regiment, 4th Brigade, 82nd Airborne Division. He also served as a company executive officer. As captain, Matt was elected to the Old Guard and led missions at the White House, Pentagon, Capitol Building, and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, including the 2012 presidential inauguration. He was awarded several medals, including the Bronze Star. Please welcome Matt Hernandez.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Just want to take the opportunity to say thank you, and it's an honor and privilege to be here today. I want to thank all the veterans that are here today, and also the men in uniform that protect our families and community. Contrary to what Lou said, we do also serve the military and put people in the NFL. Starting left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a good buddy of mine, his name is Ali Villanueva, and Ali's had 3 combat tours in Afghanistan. He stands 6'9". He was back then 270 pounds, and now he's well over 300. But he's a great American. I really want to talk today about the brotherhood. I did have the pleasure of playing on the Army football team. It's one of the greatest pleasures of my life, and one of the groups that I'm most proud to be a part of. And the reason I say that is, there's a lot of different things that you go through adversity at the academy. Being a cadet there or a midshipman is no easy task. It's difficult, it's challenging, it pushes you to the limit. Playing a Division I sport is also very difficult, and I'm sure Kate can attest to that. Playing football is another, I think, brings another dimension to that. There's 18 to 20 hour days. You don't see your family much. You're doing up to 17 to 22 credit hours, and you're going to practice, and you're doing military training. There's a lot of different things that you go through as a football player, and really the people that you lean on are your teammates. Chad Jenkins, I had the pleasure of meeting. Chad Jenkins is actually, unfortunately and thankfully, the last quarterback that actually beat Navy in 2001. But Chad's been a mentor of mine since I moved back to Palm Beach County. Jordan Murray's over here in the corner. Jordan played football with myself, both 2008 graduates. And Jordan's a close friend of mine, just moved here from Kentucky. But the great thing about the bond of the brotherhood that Army football brings is that it really resonated with me when I realized that a first generation Cuban American kid like myself from Miami would become best friends with a small town guy from western Pennsylvania, a place called Berwick. And it brings people together and bonds that you would never really get to see outside of that atmosphere. I want to share a few stories. I don't really like to talk about myself so much, but it's really the important and the impactful things that people that I've met along the way on the Army football team have done. Guys like Mike Beatty, who was a 2008 graduate with myself. He was captain of the football team. Mike was regimental commander there. He served honorably in the military. Mike's first mission in Afghanistan so happened to be a mission with me, best friend. And Mike went to some adversity before he went to Afghanistan. One of the last missions that I went on as a platoon leader in Afghanistan, I had just lost one of my weapons squad leaders. And we were clearing a village in order to make sure that everything was taken care of. And Mike's unit had just come into country. Now, mind you, I was in a very small combat outpost in Afghanistan. There's literally thousands of them in the country. Mike Beatty happened to be at that combat outpost on this particular mission after we cleared this village. And lo and behold, it was a very, very volatile area. We got multiple gunfights just about every single day. And sure enough, we cleared the village, and we took contact on the perimeter. So as a platoon leader, your job is to go meet the fight, right? It's to go where the fight is, to lead your soldiers from the front. And so I ran to the perimeter where the gunfire was coming from. And after everything settled, thank God we had no casualties that day. I turned around, and there was 2 people that weren't usually with me at that particular firefight. One was the battalion sergeant major. Or your military folks know the battalion sergeant major should be there. He wanted to be where his guys were. And the next guy was Mike Beatty, who was a first lieutenant at the time. And if you know anything about tactics, typically you don't leave your men behind, right? Mike was there with a couple different folks from his unit. They were there literally just to observe, just to be there and to witness the meeting that was taking place after the village was cleared. Mike, in his foolishness, he just decided to run with me. And when I turned around, I used some vulgar language of asking him what the hell he was doing, and what, why was he following me? And he just looked at me and goes, "You're my brother, why wouldn't I follow you?" And to me, that was really, really profound. I was like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't know the danger that he put himself in. And he just followed me out of blind loyalty. Like, that doesn't happen. But we were brothers on the Army football team. And the last story I'll share with you, and this is not a plug for a nonprofit that I'm on the board for, it's really just to show you the power of what Army football has done for me in my life, is like Pat's family. My family's a Gold Star family too. And if you don't know what a Gold Star family is, that means you lost someone in service to the nation. Mike Beatty lost someone personal in his life, wasn't a Gold Star family. And another gentleman by the name of Mark Faldowski also lost his mother. The reason I share that with you is because the two of them, and I helped them along the way, we started a nonprofit called Legacies Alive. What Legacies Alive does is it raises awareness for fallen service members that have served in any capacity. Service members that have served overseas and were killed in action, service members that were subject to suicide, folks that have died in accidents. And so we raise awareness for those fallen service members because people tend to forget. Right? And the other thing is that we also support the Gold Star families that they're left behind. I mentioned that earlier. A lot of people don't know what a Gold Star family is. I wear several bracelets on my wrist every day. One of them was my company commander, one was my weapons scholar, which I mentioned earlier, and another was my team leader. All guys that were in my unit that were killed in my deployment in Afghanistan. And the thing is, a lot of people don't remember those people, who they were. The whole meaning of Legacies Alive is to keep their legacy alive, right? Never let that sacrifice go and let people forget. But what Mike and Mark have done as founding Legacies Alive is we bring Gold Star families together. And the cool thing about the Army-Navy game is there's not a platform other than that I think in the country that is an environment where families can come and feel recognized, number one, feel a sense of fulfillment, and also be supported by the folks that are there from both sides, both the Army and the Navy side. And so every year we bring Gold Star families together to the Army-Navy football game so they can see the pageantry, they can be a part of that game. And really the nice thing is they get to meet each other and really start to feel in that bonding process, because no one understands what they go through unless they've been through that adversity themselves. And so, just in closing, I really thank you for the opportunity to be here. For me, this game is definitely more than a game. Right? These guys go through 4 years at the academy, they go through all this training, they play a football game, and these seniors are going to get ready to serve their nation. And some of those guys may go to war, right? And it's a whole lot more than just strapping up the chin strap and hit each other on Saturday. It's much more than that. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and go Army, beat Navy.
Thank you for your service as well. I got a good feeling about Army this year. I don't want to get my Navy guys, but they're actually a good team this year. All right, now it's time for our keynote speaker. It's going to be Captain Ken A. Lee, U.S. Navy retired. I'm going to read a little bit of Captain Lee's bio here. Captain Kenneth A. Lee, U.S. Navy retired, Fort Wayne native and Northside High School graduate of 1961, was inducted into the Purdue University ROTC Hall of Fame on April 17, 2004. Captain Lee was recognized for his outstanding achievements in both a 23-year Navy career and ensuing 15-year career with Lockheed Martin Corporation in Riviera Beach, Florida. Captain Lee began his Navy career as a scholarship midshipman in the Navy Reserve Officer in ROTC at Purdue. He graduated with a BS degree in mathematics with a minor in Russian language and was commissioned as ensign in the Navy in June 1965. He served 23 years in the Navy, including tours of duty on 4 nuclear submarines. In 1980 to 1984, Captain Lee was commanding officer of the nuclear submarine USS Gato in New London, Connecticut. Captain Lee's Navy awards include the Legion of Merit Medal and 4 meritorious service medals, among more than a dozen earned. He was twice early selected for promotion in rank and retired from the Navy in October 1988 in Washington, D.C. Immediately upon leaving naval service, Captain Lee began a 15-year career in underwater technologies with Perry Offshore in Riviera Beach. This firm was soon acquired by what is now the Lockheed Martin Corporation, the nation's largest defense contractor. Captain Lee lives in Jupiter, Florida. He has served as president of the Palm Beach Council of the Navy League of the United States for 4 terms and sits on the advisory board for the National UDT SEAL Museum in Fort Pierce. He has 4 children, all married, and 11 grandchildren. Captain Lee retired from Lockheed Martin and continues to consult on Russian business and joint project activities, as well as on domestic defense projects. His wife Susan Lee passed away in 2009 after a courageous battle with cancer. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Kenneth A. Lee.
Thank you, Pat, for that outstanding introduction. I'm going to try to earn it now. It's truly an honor to be here in this room full of valiant veterans and our first responders. So glad to see you there. A lot of us veterans, especially in my era, we used to do those things, but you guys are still on the front line, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you for that. It's been a long morning already, so I'm not going to make it very much longer. It's funny, Lou Romano of the Naval Academy playing with Roger Staubach through those same years. I was at Purdue, and our quarterback was Bob Greasy. The Illinois linebacker was Jim Buckley. So that's how old we are. Today I'm just going to tell you a little bit about submarines, a little bit about the Navy League, maybe tell a sea story, and let us get on with our day. Probably some time to go to lunch somewhere. I'm going to be giving some hand signals to Roger Peltzer over here because he's going to run the slide machine. That's the way it runs, so don't let that distract you too much. But Roger, go ahead, hit a couple of buttons there, and let's bring up, make sure we got the right guy in the right place. Yes, that's me, and types of submarine that I served on. But I'm here today not only as a Navy veteran, but also as the president of another fine service organization, that's the Navy League of the United States. And I'm with the Palm Beach Council of that organization. We have over 200 councils around the country. A few of my council mates are here. I see Mr. Lou Palumbo, not only a Navy veteran, but a CIA veteran. Those guys didn't get the opportunity to come out and be recognized. They had to do it all behind the curtains. Go ahead, Roger. Let's see what we're going to talk about. As I said, a little bit about submarines, a little bit about the Navy League, just a couple of minutes. I'll tell a sea story. Our Q&A today will not do from the floor, but I can say I'll stay here as long as anybody wants to ask questions afterwards. Go ahead, Roger. Submarine Force Heritage is what that slide says. Don't try to read all the numbers because I'm just going to tell them to you right now. But our submarine force today, our modern submarine force, still has very strong ties back to our World War II heritage of the submarine war in the Pacific. From December of 1941 in Pearl Harbor until August of 45, Japanese surrender, we lost 52 submarines and their crews. In a little less than 4 years, virtually every 26 days we lost a submarine and its crew. Yet the people kept going to war. They kept joining up. They kept getting on the ships. They come back, refuel, go back to war. In those 4 years in the Pacific, one of every 7 submariners that went to war against Japan didn't come back. One of every 5 physical submarines that went out to shoot didn't come back. And we still feel that heritage very strongly in the submarine force today. When a young man on a submarine today earns his dolphins after being a year on board his first submarine, he's gone through the arduous training and qualification program. They convene a little ceremony for the captain to pin on the dolphins. Part of that ceremony will be the chief of the boat will read a couple of pages of War Patrol from one of those submarines. We're out here in such and such a channel, we just shot so-and-so, and we got 6 guys chasing us and dropping bombs. But that sort of connection to our history that is still vibrant in the submarine force today. And I'm always very proud to be part of that. I just came back last month from our annual submarine symposium in Washington, D.C., where every year the Naval Submarine League, which is essentially the submarine lobbying organization in Washington, holds a symposium at which every admiral who's got anything to do with running the submarine force comes in and tells us old guys what's going on today. And let's us keep up to date. Our Chief of Naval Operations, the #1 officer in the Navy today, Admiral Richardson, a submariner. His predecessor, Admiral Jonathan Greener, a submariner. The head of the nuclear power program, Admiral Frank Caldwell, The program Admiral Rickover started, if you know that name. Admiral Caldwell was there to brief us. Commander of the Pacific Submarine Force, Atlantic Submarine Force, came to talk to us. Then they bring a commanding officer from a Pacific submarine and an Atlantic submarine to tell us what they've been doing. Then they had a panel of 5 junior officers from today's submarines that just finished their first 3-year tour on board. Now they're back in Washington on shore duty. They told us about their first tour on a submarine. And we give out awards at this thing, and several enlisted awards. So we had a panel of 7 enlisted people there to tell us what they've been doing on their submarines. And I can tell you from listening to today's submariners, as good as we were, and we were awfully damn good, today's submariners are even better. The technology is incredible, fantastic. The work is just as hard or harder as it ever was for us. But their energy level, their patriotism level, their sharpness, outstanding. I have not one worry in the world about these kids. The sooner we get out of their way, they'll take care of us. I have no doubt about it. Next slide, please, Roger. Our submarine force today is made up of 3 types of submarines. The labels are up there. It says SSBN, SSGN, SSN, one of those. The BNs are the ballistic missile submarines, our Trident-class submarines. They carry the intercontinental ballistic missiles, several thousand-mile range on them, each missile carrying an atomic bomb. No, each missile carrying multiple atomic bombs, each of which can be independently targeted. You hear about MIRV missiles, that's multiple independently targeted reentry vehicle. MIRV, that's a euphemism for multiple atomic bombs coming at you, each one knowing right where they're going. So our ballistic missile submarines carry those. The next one's SSGNs, cruise missiles. They carry land attack missiles that travel instead of thousands of miles, hundreds of miles, say 700, 800 miles, and they'll fire those missiles at a building 600 miles away and put it in the second-story window for you. And the other ones are called SSNs, or fast attack submarines, principally the anti-ship torpedo shooting submarines. So those are the 3 types of submarines that we talk about. We talk about the U.S. submarine force. We've got 14 of the ballistic missile submarines. Some of them are always on patrol and have been since 1958, 365 days a year. And they are credited in Washington mostly with, that's the reason we haven't had a nuclear war since 1958. We got barely through the Cuban Missile Crisis precisely because we had put our Polaris submarines to sea. In the late 1950s and 1962 was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Soviet Union decided not to take that too far. We have 4 of the cruise missile submarines. Each one carries 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles. And then right now we've got 52 of the attack submarines. These are all nuclear-powered submarines. All of our submarines have been nuclear-powered now for almost my lifetime. First one went to sea in 1954. The Navy's been operating nuclear submarine reactors continuously since 1954 in every Navy port here and around the world. And how many nuclear accidents have you heard of? From those guys, none. That's a very tough program. Admiral Rickover started an incredible program. I remember seriously, personally being amazed at how hard he got us to work. We felt like we weren't working hard enough to honor him or to stay ahead of him. To stay ahead of his boots sometimes. So the submarines are pictured there. The ballistic missile submarine, that's the intercontinental ballistic missiles. You'll hear them called Trident submarines perhaps, or Ohio-class submarines. The #1 defense procurement priority in our nation right now is the replacement of the Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. We have 14 of those, and over the next 18 years, they're going to go out of service. But they're going out of service when they reach 42 years of age. Those 14 submarines will have been operating for 42 years when they go out of service. So we've got to start building their replacements now in order to have them ready as these guys exit. And that's the #1 defense procurement priority, not Navy, but American defense procurement priority. Next slide. How big are these submarines? Well, the SSBNs and GNs are showing up on the top. That's a big ship. It's 560 feet long, 42-foot beam. You got 3 living levels on board, running up and down ladders. I mean, those are big ships. Excuse me. Then the attack submarines, of which we have over 50. We've got multiple classes at sea. The ones we're building now are called Virginia class. They're average about 350 feet. Also, a big submarine. Next. And then this slide says, then it gets a little complicated. With the submarines we're building now, we call them Virginia class. Starting with the next segment of the class we're going to build, we're putting 4 of the huge missile tubes off of the ballistic missile submarine into this one, adding 28 cruise missiles to it. So soon all of our attack submarines not only will have like 40 torpedoes on board, but also 40 land attack cruise missiles. And that's going a long way towards replacing our 4 current cruise missile submarines that are going to go out of service. So that's the nature of our submarine force today. Roger? Here are the some of the things about submarines. How do nuclear submarines work? What's the nuclear power part? How do they surface, submerge? How do you live on board? How do you cook? I could answer all those questions. I'll just mention today about nuclear submarine. What's nuclear about it? Basically, all of these submarines run a conventional steam turbine propulsion system, and most of them run steam turbines through reduction gears to turn the propeller to make the ship go. How do you make the steam? That's what we use the nuclear reactor for. The nuclear reactor is in a sealed compartment. It runs a closed system. It just keeps hot water going as long as you need it to go. Turns that into steam. That's how we make our electricity. We also make the air that we breathe down there, make the water that we drink. But it all comes from the heat of the nuclear reactor, and the submarines we build today, the nuclear reactor never has to be refueled. Build a submarine, put it to sea, never has to go to the gas station. Boy, that's a big deal when you're out there fighting these things or running these things. You never have to worry about being out of gas. You can go as fast as you can go, as long as you want to go. You'll run out of food before you run out of gas. We'll skip that one, Roger, and we'll talk now about the people. I call them the VIPs or the MVPs, as Kate Aretha was saying, working with these fine sailors and young officers, it just makes your heart swell. The submariners, I think, are a special group of people, but we all think that about the all-stars that we work with. But to get into the submarines, it is an all-volunteer force. Nobody gets drafted into the submarine force in the Navy. You have to volunteer. Not only that, once you volunteer, you've got to qualify. Everybody takes their general aptitude test entering the service, and those scoring requirements to be a submariner are quite high. Almost all of the enlisted paths to submarine duty require a 6-year commitment because the initial training is so lengthy, and technically they put a big investment in you and they require a 6-year obligation. But man, are these people sharp. Leading them is not easy because they're smart. It's hard to stay ahead of us. You've got to work as a team. There's just no way that you could say, all right, I'm in charge here, I'll tell you how to do everything. No. Hey team, let's get together and figure out how we're going to do this thing. Boy, are they good. They also, in general, and going through the submarine force, they get a little more pay than everybody else. Aviators get flight pay, submariners get submarine pay. The junior enlisted on board today, between $100 and $200 a month. The more senior officers on board that have been doing this for close to 20 years, more like $1,000 a month. But it's a little extra pay being in the submarine force. Just an outstanding group of people. I'm just still very proud to be considered a part of them. Roger? So that little red check mark there says, okay, we've talked about submarines. And next I said I'd talk about the Navy League a little bit. And I'm going to do that a little bit. The Navy League is a service organization similar to Rotary. Our motto is civilians, supporting the sea services. We are a civilian organization. A lot of us happen to have a Navy background that are in the organization, but we also have ex-Army officers, ex-Coast Guard officers, but just a lot of civilians that are part of our organization serving the sea services. That's Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine. And here locally, we serve the youth groups that lead to those areas, like these fine young cadets that were here from Palm Beach Gardens High School. One of the youth groups my council supports is that Navy ROTC program at Palm Beach Gardens High. We also have 2 divisions of Sea Cadets. They're like Boy Scouts, but they're Marine-oriented. And there's a Young Marines at a Palm Beaches division. Young Marines will hold an event tomorrow night that many of us will attend. So we take care of our local Navy reservists, local Coast Guard people. We've got a Coast Guard station there at Lake Worth Inlet. We take care of the Autec submarine testing range over in the Bahamas. When I say take care of, what do? We try to do nice things for them. These are our young people in uniform today. We pretty much have required them to hold a Sailor of the Quarter type program. They nominate your outstanding people each quarter. We give them a nice personalized plaque with a $100 bill taped to the back, and we do that over 40 times a year. And it's popular with the young sailors and Marines and Coast Guardsmen today. We like to do it, and it allows we're a civilian organization, and this allows our civilians a way of having a direct connection with their local military people. This Navy Reserve Center, I know you've seen it across from the airport down on Belvedere, got nearly 300 Navy reservists there that have been deploying back and forth to the Middle East for the past 10 years. Every June, we take everybody who has deployed and come back in the last year, and we hold a nice big dinner for them and give them some special awards. But, so Navy League Service Organization, we serve the sea services. We try to be a one-way organization. We just give, but we have a lot of fun. We have monthly luncheons or dinners. Because of our membership, we have access to nice places to hold these luncheons. Our luncheon next week's at the Sailfish Club in Palm Beach. Last month we were at Iron Horse Country Club out here. In May we were at PGA. We were at the Beach Club prior to that. So we get to go to nice places. We try to do nice things and have fun while we're taking care of the sea service people. Roger? That's it for the Navy League. Next, sea stories. There's some of them listed there. Sometimes I might have you pick a sea story, but I'll just tell one quick one. The picture at the top of that slide there is a submarine that looks like it's jumping out of the water. And one of my sea stories is jumping the equator, because that's what we did. In 1982, I remember it like it was yesterday. We were the submarine picked to go down and be part of a U.S. Navy task force in South America to operate with our South American allies in our Caribbean allies, something the Navy does every 2 years just to keep everybody familiar with each other so that when we have to work together, we're ready to do that. Well, my submarine got tabbed to be the submarine part of that group in 1982, and the first thing we did was transit from New London, Connecticut to Punta del Este, Uruguay. Here 6,600 miles, a long way, and at 30 miles an hour. So, what do you do when you're underway on a submarine? Well, the guys will tell you we're always training, cleaning, and fixing. That's all we do, training, clean, and fix. Well, at least we can, let's jump the equator on our way down. That's something we can do. We gave that as an exercise to the junior officers who in turn had to get their chiefs and senior enlisted involved to say, how are we going to do that safely? Because the captain says he wants to jump the equator like this. He wants to start out as deep as we can go, as fast as we can go. When we get there, up as fast as we can go, over the equator, and back down. Now, that violates several normal peacetime operating principles. Just like a car, you don't normally drive around with the pedal on the floor. It's not exactly totally safe, but again, you want to learn to fight your ship to the limits of its capability. So that was a real exercise for the people These companies give me a program that trains up properly for this, stations the necessary extra watch standards, and makes it so we know exactly where we are, exactly how fast it takes us to get up there, so when we do jump out of the water, we're going to be jumping the equator. And it worked, and we only broke one puppy. It was a lot of fun. I came back, I told my Commodore, the guy who was my senior officer in the organization, I told him we did that. He said, "Don't ever tell me that again, you dumb son." But all the sailors that we were with, we still talk about that today. So I think it's worth doing when you do things like that. And with that, I want to thank you again for allowing me to be with such a fine group today. I'm very, very proud to be here. Thank you very much.
Actually, I have some applications for the Navy League.
All right.
Line up over here.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate those words, and thank you for your service. Now, the Rotary Club of the Northern Palm Beaches will award its honorary Rotarian to an outstanding individual. We'll watch a video of the recipient of this honor, and then Donna Smith will present the award.
It's kind of like before games. When you roll out of the wire here, you get that kind of anxious, ready to go. It's a lot similar to being a quarterback on the field because you're basically in charge of whatever the platoon fails or executes.
Before stepping foot in Iraq, Chad Jenkins had what it took to be a leader. In 2001, playing with a torn ACL, he inspired Army to victory over Navy in his final college game.
Chad was maybe the best leader that I've ever been around, just because if you didn't want to come, he would physically drag you along.
He's the youngest of three, so you would think that he would tend to follow rather than lead. But even as a young child, I mean, he sort of set the course and decide what he, wanted to do, and then he would follow through with it.
Jenkins was set to return to West Point as a graduate assistant, but after 9/11, he signed on for active duty. Today, he's stationed in Fallujah, one of the war's hottest danger zones. He's the platoon commander in charge of 37 men who depend on his leadership. We're not talking about touchdown drives here. Their lives are in his hands.
I got guys that are 18, 19 years old in my platoon, and I mean, this is a stressful environment. This is probably more stressful than if it was a conventional war because you know who the enemy is, you know who you're going after in that type of environment. Here, every time you roll out, you don't know who's the bad guy.
When we used to go watch Chad play, of course, we worried about what he was doing on the field as far as getting hurt, and we always worried about that. Well, that doesn't compare to what our worries are now.
I can't imagine for him, I can't imagine for any man or woman who's over there, because the sense is that sometimes it can be horrific.
Last month, a helicopter was shot down, killing 16 Americans, and Jenkins' platoon was first on the scene. After helping rescue and evacuate survivors, he and his men spent 5 days in hostile conditions, defending the wreckage from looters.
Our biggest concern was getting those people out of the wreckage and getting them on birds so that they would have a chance to make it. Just a horrible event, something that you train for, but you just hope your guys never have to go through just because it was just a hard day in general.
I'm sure that it's something that'll probably change him, to experience something like that. That's not something that most people have to deal with in this lifetime, but he always had a positive outlook, and he was always more concerned about how we handled it versus how he was handling it.
He chose to serve his country, and I'm grateful for that, and I think the rest of America is grateful that we have people like Chad who are willing to do that.
Emily and my family, that's the biggest thing, because no matter where you are, your home's where your family is. Your loved ones, those are the ones, especially around this time of year, that you want to be with, and that's the hardest thing.
Well, this is an honor and privilege to come up here and present to one of the finest human beings I've ever met.
I'm a little prejudiced towards the Black Knights on the Hudson because I was born at West Point. That's the closest I got to the military. But Chad and Emily Jenkins, the pride and joy of Dublin, Ohio. Everybody thinks that Dublin, Ohio for the Golden Bears great golf tournament. Well, there it is right there, the pride and joy of Dublin, Ohio. And it's with a great pleasure, a heartfelt gratefulness on behalf of the Rotary International, the Rotary Club, in the honor of the Palm Beaches. We want to extend an honorary membership. You're always welcome to the Rotary meeting.
My goodness, Don Smith, he's the one who puts this on. I had the honor and privilege to speak 2 years ago. And for what you do for all of us, Don, it doesn't go unnoticed, and thank you very much. I will keep this very, very brief. Just a quick Army-Navy story. I'm so sick of hearing Lou throw in this on 14th Street that I got to say a few quick words. So December 1st, 2001, it's the last time we beat Navy, and that was my senior year. And prior to the game, during pregame warm-up, we were all in the locker room, and General Schwarzkopf, Storm and Norman, comes into our locker room to give us a pep talk. And I'll never forget it, and I'll share with you real briefly. He said, "Men, you're going to war today." He goes, "Not only do you represent the Army football team, not only do you represent West Point, you represent the United States Army." And he said, "Men, the United States Army does not lose wars." So at that point in time, there really was no pressure, but thank God we went on to win 26-17 that day. And then, real quickly, I just want to recognize a couple of groups. First being our World War II and Vietnam veterans, all throughout the room. I tell you what, to have literally the national treasures, living national treasures with us today, members from the Battle of the Bulge, from Normandy, from Vietnam, it's unbelievable. And the reason why it's so touching to all of us veterans today from Iraq and Afghanistan is because you men and women have paved the way for how we get treated today. A little thing that we can do as civilians each and every time we see that veteran wearing that Vietnam veteran hat at the Publix or out throughout town, or that World War II hat, is all you have to do is go over and shake their hand and thank them for their service. There's a reason why they wear that hat. It's because now, finally, in 2016, they can honorably go out and get the just deserved thanks that they're due. And so that's any time we can do that. And then to our men and women in blue, my God, for what you do for each and every single one of us each and every day, it does not go unnoticed. And from the veteran community, we always seem to get the thanks and the notoriety, but it's the unsung heroes of you that are paving the way and giving us here in our own homeland the ability to go out and live in the greatest country in the world. Thank you very much. Say, go Army, beat Navy.
He's ready to suit up right now. We're getting in the home stretch here. I think we have end line one more time for God Bless America. Come on up.
Hello. You can join me in this if you want to. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the
Thank you, Evelyn. Remain standing, folks. The benediction will be given by Pastor Paul Beresford. And after the benediction, please remain standing while the colors are retired by the Navy Junior ROTC.
What a privilege to be here with you today. I know it's late, but I must share with you something very briefly. A couple months ago, I had to undergo emergency open heart surgery. The main artery was 98% blocked, and they said I had about a week or so to live. And so I didn't have it done, and I'm in the process of healing right now. I'm very thankful to be alive today and be with you today. As I was going through the healing process, along came election day, and I was able to be alive and to vote again in a national presidential election. And so I went up to our precinct and signed in and went into the little voting cubby hole. I had my ballot there, my reading glasses, and I'm all set to start to put my little line across. And this wave of emotion came over me, and I began to cry. As I stood in that booth ready to put my line across, I thought of the thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of men and women, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, who paid the ultimate price for this 76-year-old heart surgery person still alive to be able to stand in that little booth and put my line across those I thought would do the best job. I am so grateful to be with you today. I'm so thankful to be an American, to be a citizen of this great country, and to thank all of you for your sacrifice to allow me to be able to vote in this country, the greatest country in the face of the earth. Heavenly Father, it has been an incredible morning. Hearing these men and women, Father, share stories and testimonies, Father, about this great country and about our military men and women. And Father, I am so thankful to be an American, to be able to stand here today and give this benediction, God. Thank you for protecting our land. And thank you for the greatest country in the world, Father, founded on godly principles. And Father, even as we stand in this place, enjoy this time of fellowship and remembrance and laughter and all that, we are very mindful, Father, right now of the men and women throughout this world who are in very, very dangerous places, Father, allowing us to enjoy the freedom that you have given to us. Bless them, God, I pray. Protect them and their families. Bring them home safely to us. And Father, thank you for the United States of America. Thank you for the Rotary, for this incredible organization, Father. And thank you for the privilege to be able to stand here before them and bring this benediction to you. In the Savior's precious name, I pray. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much.
We need a moment of silence for the 75th anniversary. It behooves us to give a moment of silence for those kids that died every day. Amen.
Amen.
Board, please.
And so,
Color guard, hold. Breeze, head, colors. Ready, cut. Carry, colors. Ready, cut. Outboard, pace.
Arch.
Go Navy.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program.